Greetings for Indie Book Publishing, Westbow Press. This is J. Douglas Barker. The book is titled Round by Round in Search of Wisdom. Our author, Florine Dotson Evans, joins me from California. Welcome to the program, Florine.
Thank you, Jay.
California is not your original home place. You grew up in Oklahoma, from what I am hearing about your history. How did you end up in California, and what is the title? What's the significance of Round by Round?
I ended up in California because my husband's people are from there as well as mine, and he was on a visit to his grandmother when I met him, and eventually we married, and he brought me out here to California where he was living.
And he was a chemist, correct?
Yes, he was in school at the time, but he's a chemist, yes.
Incredible. Your book is 80 pages, and each page has a saying or an observation. What inspired you to jot down your thoughts when you were confronted with obstacles in life?
I was injured at work with a torn meniscus in my knee, and I was off from work for 8 months with limited mobility. But every day I listened to Oprah Winfrey at 3 o'clock, and she became my friend. And she would always encourage people to do what they want to do, that they put on hold for a long time. And so after hearing that so often, I said, let me put down some of the things I've learned from my experiences and things that have happened to me. And rather than tell the whole story, what did I get out of that particular trial or circumstance? And I would jot it down. And that's how the book began.
Florine, have you always had a desire to be an author?
Not really. I've always written, and my people that I've written notes or little encouraging things to in the mail. And then they would tell me years later, I still have your letter, I still have your note. And I went to visit farmers when I retired in 2003, and there were people that had little notes that I had written to them still on their desk. Wow. I said, are you serious? So anyway, it's just the Lord's doing.
One thing about that, in the era of emails, that's going to become scarcer and scarcer, those personal comments and personal touches.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You have done a great service to people and obviously impacted their lives that an email may not have.
Yes, that could be true.
Do you journal? Do you keep track of things in a journal, or how do you remember what you have written, or what the ideas, the inspiration is that you have shared in your book?
Well, I did after I started reviewing my life, and I kind of made a little chart of my life and the hazards that I've gone through, which I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But anyway, then I could recall things that happened and the thought patterns that changed, that I realized that if you change the way you think, you change your life. And those things that I pressed in, and I realized that happiness is a decision. And that was life-changing to me.
Early advice as a child or a young adult. Did you ever receive some advice, some life advice or otherwise, that has stuck with you and has become a roadmap for you to follow?
Well, trusting in God. My father was a pastor, and my mother was a devout reader of the Bible. And one of the things that they constantly talked about is honor and respect. And that has been my, I don't know whether you call it a mantra or what, but I find that most of the problems people have is because they did not display honor or respect. And that's something that we must do, because we are all made in the image of God, and we must respect each other as we respect Him.
Would you like to share with my listeners a couple of the ideas that you have espoused in your book? Because they are brief.
Yeah, they were very, very brief. Yeah, one of the things I've been asked about a lot is when I put in there what you've learned, what you were taught in kindergarten, it take a lifetime to learn.
Yes.
And one lady challenged me with that and said, that's ridiculous because I didn't learn anything in kindergarten. And I said, well, let's review that a little bit. Were you taught to play fair? Oh, yeah, we had to play by the rules. Were you told don't hit people? Oh, yeah, we couldn't. And then as I went through some of the things, clean up after your own mess, and don't take things that's not yours, and say sorry when you hurt someone, and wash your hands before you eat. She said, oh, yes, I guess I did learn a few things.
Yeah, I love this one, too. Number 7, a great loss can be the breeding ground for a great victory. And that is a positive outlook also.
Well, sometimes we have to lose to win.
This is true.
Because what we are holding on to is not worth what we have value. You put value on some things that have no value. And I was telling someone the other day, don't try to make sense out of nonsense. Is that one I should put?
Yeah, I don't know if it's in there. It probably is. The one that my wife would not understand, because this is the way I live my life, become the master of understatement. She always wants more detail. I'm not a detail guy. I want to just get to the bottom line. And you have obviously had that perspective on life as well.
Well, that's one thing I've learned from men. They don't go into a lot of details, and sometimes the more details you go into, the more you have to. So they just get to the bottom line and go forward.
Well, if you're gonna get into trouble with a spouse, you might as well just either try to avoid it or just get to the bottom line and let them know what's going on anyway.
Well, just let love be your motivation.
Well, there you are.
When all else fails, say, honey, you know I love you.
I've tried that. It works pretty well.
Yeah, just lead in with love and leave with love.
I love 11. If you're too busy to have a life, maybe you're watering artificial flowers.
I know, and that's so true because in former days as a manager and trying to get ahead in the business world, and I was just busy doing this, doing that. And finally one day I was interviewing one of the employees. I had 33 people on my team, and I was covering over their performance and tardies, and you know how you do.
Right. And
it just clicked in my head. What am I doing trying to raise these grown people? I got 2 children at home. I need to be home with my own children.
You can.
So that was one of the things that happened to me.
One thing that not surprised me, but one thing that's so obvious that I hadn't thought of it this way: you can put a square peg in a round hole if the square is small enough.
In other words, don't say things are impossible. Is what I'm really saying. That there always is a way for you to win. Not be the way you choose, but just be open. You know, a lot of times we're closed in our thinking and in our pursuit of things. And the main thing is what is your motivation? And it shouldn't be, what am I going to get out of this? It should be, how can I help someone? Great. How can I contribute? What can I do to make your life better? I found that as I did that, my life opened up in wonderful ways. As I learned a lot. When I was helping people with a wedding or helping people, I learned a lot of skills I didn't know. Helping people is just a wonderful life.
You need to move to my neighborhood so I can get some of this wisdom to rub off on me and maybe spill over into my spouse. That would be a good thing. Yeah.
Oh, well, you have a wonderful wife.
Well, you haven't met her. No, she really she
You
really
have
is.
a wonderful wife. I can tell in your voice.
Yeah, she really is. She wouldn't be able to put up with me if I wasn't also a pliable male. But thank you for the wisdom you're sharing in your book. Who did you want to reach with these wonderful observations?
Well, my goal was to empower people to, of all age groups, with keys for approaching everyday problems. And I made the book hopefully a light-hearted, simple way of using word seeds. All we need is one new approach for a life-changing journey. And it's for all ages. I was surprised. I went to a youth summit at California Lutheran University, and at my table, the teenagers came through, and they started reading the book and started reading it to each other, listening to this, listening to that. And I was so excited about the young people receiving those words, because really, when you get this book, you really have my life in your hands. You just don't know it. All of those things come through. It's a truth, and I feel like you should know the truth. The truth will set you free.
Here's a question. Here's a question for you. You say this is a reflection of your life. When did you lose your mind? Because it says sometimes losing your mind is the best thing that can happen for you.
I know for sure. I've lost it 3 times.
3 times. You have
and I was going through foreclosures, as I was going through unemployment, substance abuse in the family, and all this stuff. And I had to go on automatic because I had to. As a matter of fact, I went back over my records later on, and managing all those people and having to write up reports and appraisals and all. I did my best work. So I must have been on automatic because I was getting raises and but I can tell you, I know I lost my mind because I remember the day it came back. Boom, it looked like something happened. Oh.
There's where it's been.
But the thing that I was also talking about is sometimes you have to lose the mind of materialism, of hatred and vengeance. You got to lose that mind because that mind is not going to stabilize you for the life that God has for you to live. And as I talk to people and how it was impressed upon them, I'm very grateful. It wasn't that I was making fun or light of anything, but it was just a way of saying there is a better life, but it starts with you. You want it to start with someone else, but it starts with you. God gave you one life to live. Let's get the best out of it.
Great encouragement. Hidden stories behind the sayings in your book, but great wisdom. Thank you, Florine, for joining me today and sharing your story. I would ask you if you're going to write your biography, but since you're a get to the bottom line personality, it probably would only be a 5-page book. So
no,
we don't know.
I probably will eventually.
Will you? Wonderful.
I've had enough people inquiring about it, so when I get a chance to settle down, I might just do that.
This particular book, titled Round by Round, In Search of Wisdom, and our author, Florine Dotson Evans, has joined me from California. Florine, my listeners will need to get a copy of your book so they can cheer up as well. Where can they find it?
Also, I will be doing volume 2 before long of Round by Round. And it can be found at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, or their local Bible bookstore. They will order it for you.
Wonderful. Any possibility you are going to develop a web page or a website?
I believe Westboro Press is working on that right now.
They can do a search under your name and find you and find your writings. So thank you for sharing the wonderful insight into a life well lived and also the wisdom that has come with it. Thank you, Florine.